All right, I want to talk a little bit of media, a bit of news over the weekend, and news that you'll be reading today. Firstly, I am laughing all the way to my crusty old, very experienced journalist bank as I watch New Zealand's collective woke legacy mainstream media have to walk back the story they've been absolutely obsessed with for the last 2 weeks. And it hasn't been puberty blockers. They've tried to ignore that or misrepresent that completely. They are walking back the coup against Christopher Luxon. And the reason they're doing that was there never was a coup against Christopher Luxon. There wasn't even the shadow of a coup or the idea of a coup. There was the left-wing news media deciding they wanted one, that they wanted to destabilise the coalition ahead of the Labour Party's conference in Auckland this last weekend. But it failed. And they were then stuck with, how do we get out of having lied? Of having told all these lies about, it's all on, the move is on. I'm going to kind of read excerpts from two very different pieces of journalism this morning. And we're going to start with Andrea Vance's, and I had to pick up the paper for this yesterday because I needed something to lift my day. I just needed something to laugh at. Andrea Vance's story, "The Anatomy of National's Failed Coup," the story was headlined. She's the National Affairs Editor for The Post and the Sunday Star Times, and her the strongest creative collaboration that Andrea Vance has is with her typewriter, with her word processor. And here's just the opening stanza of her absolute BS column. Every political coup, real or whispered, follows a predictable arc. In phase one, everything is fine, the leader is popular, the polls are solid, and no one has to spend every press conference insisting they're focused on delivering for New Zealanders. Then comes the murmur stage, the polls slump, discontent seeps, and journalists start to get texts that open with, "Don't use this." MPs turn up to local events and don't defend their leader with absolute conviction. Odd groupings of MPs that don't usually hang together are spotted about Parliament. So there's our opening stanza for justifying the bullshit that has been written in the last 2 weeks. Here is how it could have done. Every political coup, or the ones we make up, follows a predictable arc. In phase one, lefty journalists hate the current government. The leader is popular, the polls are solid, and no one has to spend every press conference insisting they're focused on delivering for New Zealanders. Then comes the murmur stage, when the journalists just make stuff up and lie to the people. The polls slump, discontent seeps in, and journalists start to imagine getting texts that open with, "Don't use this." MPs turn up to local events and don't defend their leader with absolute conviction because there's absolutely no coup going on and they don't need to. Odd groupings of MPs that don't usually hang together are spotted about Parliament going, "Are you reading this bullshit that the journalists are writing about?" And on it goes, but basically every journalist or commentator who has floated this idea is now insisting, it was on, and then Chris Bishop didn't have the numbers. So there was going to be a coup, and Luxon was going to be rolled, but no one wanted to roll him, and they were all too scared to even try and roll him, so no one rolled him. So there was no coup, you lying bastards. All right? And I don't know, I called this last week, I said this was just a have, and to now watch, and Andrea Vance's column is peak back down, is peak, let's walk this back, let's try and reframe the narrative. I think you're all too smart to fall for it. which is why I called it out this morning, and why I find it, to be honest, incredibly funny. I find it incredibly funny that anyone thinks we're going to fall for that.